And brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this October 20th, 2025. October 20th, 2025. Glad you are with us tonight. We have a big program for you tonight. We're going to talk about 15 Palestinian technocrats approved to manage post-war Gaza. We'll get a report from our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aharon. We're going to talk about many things related to that, but Hamas is ISIS, says the leader of Hamas. Hamas is ISIS. Wait a minute. You mean there's no way to really get rid of Hamas? No. You can't beat Hamas, folks, because Hamas is backed by many other groups by different names. But one of their officials has come out and said Hamas is ISIS, and our goal is to take Jerusalem and establish our Islamic caliphate, global world domination from Israel, Jerusalem. Hey, did you know that we send about $40 million a week to the Taliban? Yeah, hard to believe, right? $40 million. Let's talk about that. And let's also talk about the Iron Beam. It is a laser. You have the Iron Dome. This is called the Iron Beam. It's like a laser. Technology now deployed in Israel. I'll show you some really cool videos on that. And we'll get into that. Did you know that there was a guy arrested in London? Arrested in London because he's wearing a Star of David. Wearing a Star of David, and that might be offensive or controversial. Are you serious? You got to see this video tonight. That'll make your head explode. And then we're going to talk about digital IDs. We're going to talk about putting everything on a ledger and tracking you. Tokenizing everything, says Larry Fink, the new president of the World Economic Forum. A lady at the International Monetary Fund talking about asset registry. We're going to have to register everybody's assets and then tax them into oblivion. Put caps on how much people can make. Let's talk about the farmer, the American farmer, trying to sell their corn, their soybeans, tariffs. The American people need help now. They need solutions now. We can't wait until the second or third quarter of 2026. We've got some serious problems, and any one of them is a big problem, but combined together, we got some serious problems. And I'm not going to tell you all this tonight because I'm trying to ruin your evening or be doom and gloom. But what I'm trying to show you is maybe what a lot of you don't know. You know we have almost 7 million men out of the workforce? Almost 7 million men out of the workforce, not even looking for a job. Do you know that we have about 500,000 jobs, manufacturing, service-oriented, mechanics, etc., about 500,000 slots sitting open. So President Trump can create a great economy and bring manufacturing jobs here, and that's what he's talking about, manufacturing jobs coming to America. His tariffs plan is going to cause a lot of those companies to relocate here. Well, how are they going to find the employees? How are they going to find the workers? We have a deficit of workers right now. We're going to get into a lot of very important things tonight that, a lot of folks in other parts of the world maybe aren't going to talk about or don't even know about. Parts of America don't know about. But our goal is to give you the big picture of what's going on in the world. So we're going to talk about that tonight. India's largest metals refinery ran out of silver for the first time in history. His gold is headed toward, what is it tonight, guys? 3,000, what is it, 3,400 and something? Or is it what is it tonight, guys? It's $4,356. $4,356, and silver is over $52. Let's see, what else do we got tonight, guys? So we're going to have on Trevor Loudon as well. We're going to talk about Marxism and Islam. We're going to talk about the CCP setting up shop, not just in New York, but apparently the problem's far worse in Minneapolis, St. Paul. The CCP setting up shop, taking down St. Paul. The Islamists have taken over and the Marxists are taking over. And that's the red-green axis. That's your candidate for mayor in Minneapolis. That's your candidate for mayor in New York. Marxist and Islamist, one and the same. And we're going to talk about Islam and the rapes and the growing problem of rapes in places where they are letting in Islamists who do not want to assimilate. And the problem is growing in America big time. And we're going to talk about the CCP and their involvement in making sure we are loaded up with Islamists. Trevor Loudon joins us tonight. So we're going to have on a reporter on the ground from Israel. We're going to have on Trevor Loudon. And then we're going to do a financial update with Michael Weiner on the tariffs, the farmers, our debt to GDP, our debt to global domestic product, and where things are going so you can kind of get a lay of the land and maybe prepare for what's on top of you. I played this video clip several years ago. It's time to bring it back. Time to bring it back. This is from a movie from 1981 called Early Warning. Early Warning. It was a Christian movie about end times back in 1981. Hey, Logan, listen to this, all right? Listen to this. This is back in 1981. Listen to how this sounds like today. This is a Christian movie from 1981 called Early Warning. Listen to this. I've played it before, but it bears playing again. It's been a long time.
We've made tremendous progress. And I'd like to say that most of the credit goes to our extremely efficient International Research and Development Committee. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for your hard work and dedication to our cause. In reviewing this year's progress, let me say that we have been highly effective in conditioning the people's minds to accept our solution to the world's problems. The energy crisis here in the United States was exceptionally successful worldwide, and we expect similar success with our upcoming food shortage. Our labor leaders have made great progress by causing confusion and work stoppages in all areas of the world. Financially, the dollar is being devalued even faster than we could have hoped. Politically, the public has lost total confidence in any form of government. The threat of universal war is a daily possibility. As you know, we ourselves do not need to hold any visible office of leadership. As a matter of fact, it's better that we do not. If we control the finances, news media, food, transportation, energy, we control everything. It is important that you, as world leaders, keep our program before your countrymen. With our World Bank and computer program operational, we now have the capacity to control the financial affairs of every human being on Earth by giving each person his own computer number. Anytime his number is used, we would know his financial situation at once. He could not buy or sell anything without his computer number. It will simplify their lifestyles tremendously. The end result will be a one-world monetary and government system that we alone will control. Yes.
What about the people who forget their number or their cards are lost or stolen?
We've made provisions for that. By using this laser imprinter, we can painlessly and permanently affix the person's number to the back of his hand or his forehead if he so desires. The numbers would be easily read by this new ultraviolet scanning equipment. For the purposes of demonstration, I've had such a number imprinted on myself. Once this number is imprinted, it cannot be lost nor can it be changed. Now, are there any questions?
What about the individuals who refuse to have this number implantation?
We expect some minor resistance, especially from highly motivated religious groups. But eventually, hunger will cause even the most zealous to conform to our program.
Mr. Chairman, I am concerned about the situation in the Middle East.
We've given Russia and Israel a great deal of consideration. Russia is, as you probably already know, considering an invasion of Israel in order to obtain a Mediterranean seaport. Well, our policy is to support such a move and supply Israel with the necessary nuclear weapons to fend off such an attack. The mental conditioning of the Israelis is he has nothing to lose, and subsequently will attack the Russians before they can get their planes off the ground. Gentlemen, I believe that within a year, 2 at the most, our one world government will be a reality. If we continue on our present course, it is my opinion that we could present the devil himself as a world leader, and the people would accept him.
All right, 1981. I don't know. Kind of interesting, huh, Logan? Yeah, let's get everybody marked. And we got, who was it? Was it Bill Gates that has the technology now to tattoo people on their hands? Was that who we were showing the other day? I think that was Bill. And the World Economic Forum. But in this movie in 1981, this is like some kind of World Government Foundation or something. I can't remember what the name is. It's something like that. A World Government Foundation that is trying to take over the world. Sounds like the World Economic Forum. But anyway, that is a Christian movie in 1981. Parts of it a little hokey, but very interesting that they're talking about those things in 81, which of course line up with parts of Bible prophecy. But they sound so common to us today. And we're going to hear some clips tonight about how we have to tokenize everything. We have to make it so we can control how much people make, put a cap on their incomes, tax the living daylights out of people, put everything on a ledger and tokenize it. Boy, we are moving awfully fast. No doubt about it. All right. If you appreciate what we're doing here, folks, before we get underway with our first guest, go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. I take it each and every day. I've already had one today. I may have had 2 already. Bella Grace, I take it every day. You can actually just go right to the website, melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. As you know, 3 powerful ingredients, great for the hair growth, the collagen, the cat's claw, that's an anti-inflammatory, and the astaxanthin, that's an anti-inflammatory. 81 clinical trials behind it, 81 clinical trials. And let me tell you something else. This Bella Melt is going crazy. This is with GLP-1. That's a natural ingredient already found in your body. It helps to curb your cravings, helps you burn more calories. There's also, according to the guests we've interviewed, some benefits for your heart, some heart health benefits. These are selling like crazy. As you know, Melissa, just in the first week, only taking 1, and some people are doing 2 or 3 of these, 1 after every meal. They are seeing on average 4 pounds a week. Melissa lost 3 pounds in the first 7 days. So try it out if you want, Bella Melt or the elixir that I take each and every day. Sometimes I take it twice a day. Find it at melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. Now, we do the glutathione every day, the Swish for Life, swishforlife.com. That is the glutathione. You can get it into your system within 90 seconds of swishing with it. Swish with it for about 3 minutes, and then you can spit it out or swallow it. And that's the purest way to get glutathione into your body. You could get an IV. That's going to cost you about $250, but it gets broken down in the IV. Whereas when you swish with it, it's in your system in its totality within about 90 seconds. So swish with it for about 3 minutes and then spit it out or swallow it, whichever you prefer. Some studies show that this glutathione, which has had over 100,000 studies on PubMed, may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Swishforlife.com or worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Worldview Talk, you can get your satellite phone. I have one. You can get your solar generator from them. I have one. You can get your bulletproof backpack from them. I have one. You can get your Bivy. This, you can sync it to your cell phone. If the cell towers go down, you can still use your cell phone to compose the text and then send the text through the Bivy to a satellite down to your other family member that has it. So your communications are not disrupted, even if the cell towers go down. All of it's at worldviewtalk.com. They also have blankets and beanies to knock down EMF. And of course, we've seen all the studies on the damaging effects of people being overloaded with EMF. All of it's at worldviewtalk.com or 1-866-738-3224, 1-866-738-3224. 4. You know I do the Gatatana every day. That is a phytoplankton. 1 scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. Dolly gets half a scoop on her food every morning. There's a pet product. It's about $20 cheaper than the product we use as humans. So get the pet product, you'll save some money. There's that cat that had the tumor in its eye. They got it on the Gatatana, and the tumor disappeared. I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you. And of course, you know all about the man that developed it. They gave him a terminal case of cancer, and they said he had that. And he started eating the phytoplankton that he was raising for his shellfish, and he lived another 10 years, retired to Hawaii. That's how Global Plankton Alliance was formed. So again, this has 5 clinical trials. You can find out more at worldviewtube.com/sponsors or go to melissahousegpa.com. All of these things are there. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. I saw some more water filters orders coming in this weekend. You can get one of these. I have one under my kitchen sink, one on my shower sink, taking out all these toxins, the ammonia, the lead, the arsenic, all kinds of pharmaceuticals and other things. Drink good, clean water for yourself, your pets, your children, your grandchildren, unless, of course, you want to drink poisonous chemicals, but who does, right? Worldviewwater.net, worldviewwater.net, or you can just go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, where you'll find all of these great products that you know that we use. And we only promote the things we believe in and that we use. So please check it all out at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Trevor Loudon. Breitbart has a series, the CCP's United Front Hub in America's Heartland. There's 3 parts to it. Let's talk. I asked Trevor if he would read this series, get into it, explain it to us. Trevor, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Always a pleasure, Brannon.
Tell me about this CCP, Chinese Communist Party, United Front Network in America. Tell me about it, please. What's the article exposing? 3-part series?
Well, the article is focusing on the Minnesota wing of it. You know, anywhere there's a Chinese diaspora, the United Front operates, you know, especially in San Francisco, New York, Boston, etc. But Minnesota is the heartland. The Chinese seems to have focused on Minnesota for some time because it's always been a left-wing controlled area right back since the early 1920s. And they also have a lot of communist groups there like Freedom Road Socialist Organization and Democratic Socialists of America. And it's a big farming area as well, which is important to the Chinese. And it's quite a cultural center. So the United Front is a series of organizations, China Friendship Societies, diaspora organizations, associations of overseas Chinese, etc. And they work directly for the Chinese government, the United Front Department, which is a wing of the CCP, which uses cultural, economic, political, media power to influence foreign governments and societies in ways that suit the CCP. So it's a propaganda operation, but also part of it is a policing operation because they have an actual Chinese police station in Minnesota, so-called, which is answers to the Chinese police and monitors local Chinese to make sure they stay loyal and don't go off script, you know, to make sure that community is under control, much like the mafia used to lord it over the Italian communities in some big cities. This CCP operation controls the local Chinese population and several of the Democratic Party operatives in that state, and some Republicans too.
It says here, the Breitbart article says, there's arguably more smoke in Minnesota than there was in New York City when the FBI's investigation of that police station was started. So in other words, apparently Minnesota's further down the road to not only Islamization, of course, let's not forget about their congresswoman, right? Ilhan Omar from there.
Yep.
Somalia, they've changed their flag in Minnesota, look like the Somali flag. they're not only being taken over by the Islamists, but now they're further down the road when it comes to the CCP than New York, apparently, according to this report.
Well, that goes together.
Yes.
The Chinese enable, it's the communist parties that bring in the Islamists. That's deliberate policy. And you'll find that all around the world. And Minnesota is a bedrock of Maoism. The Freedom Road Socialist Organization is based there. They're the people who started the George Floyd riots and are running the anti-ICE riots right now, both of which are very much supported by the Chinese. So I'm not surprised that Minnesota has been a very strong base for the Chinese United Front, because that left-wing base is already there, big Islamic population, and it's just very centrally located, and it's a cultural center. It's one of the main cultural centers in the Midwest, and a lot of the United Front stuff is done by even touring artistic shows and ballets and cultural shows. The Chinese rightly regard cultural influence as very, very important in subverting a country.
Well, they talk about, here, I'll go back to the top of the page. They say in their article, part one of this joint investigation, Breitbart News Foundation and the Government Accountability Institute, it was revealed that from a single brick building on North Eustis Street in St. Paul, Minnesota, a web of pro-Beijing nonprofits and businesses collaborate with overseas Chinese Service Center of Minnesota, which itself works directly with the Chinese Communist Party's United Front Work Department. Part two revealed that the Public University of Minnesota email account of a Dr. Bingwen Yan, the person in charge of the Minnesota OCSC, is listed on official Chinese Communist Party websites as the official contact for the Minnesota OCSC, and that any communications that may have been taking place on that email address could prove useful to any investigation of whether CCP is operating another so-called police station in Minnesota. Now, in part three, BNF and GAI turn their focus on another Chinese-born businessman with connections to this network in St. Paul. They mentioned who he is. Well, it looks like the CCP is clearly taking over Minnesota, but don't we know that already? Don't you believe their governor, Walz, is an agent of the CCP? That's my question. I don't have any proof to that, but didn't he travel over there? Isn't there enough smoke to say he could be an actual agent of the CCP, Walz?
Oh, look, absolutely. I think this the overwhelming case, and he is involved with these United Front organizations. He goes to their functions. He supports their causes. They support his causes. They donate to his policies. And it's not just him. It's some of the other, Minnesota is run by the old Wellstone machine. It's Tim Walz. It's Peggy Flanagan, who's now running for the U.S. Senate from Minnesota. She was trained by the Wellstone organization, which was a communist group. Keith Ellison, who's the Attorney General, was also trained by Wellstone. So you got this Marxist network. But Tim Walz, and we wrote about that extensively in my book, Stealth, Kamala Harris's Communist Roots. Did a whole chapter on Tim Walz and his ties to the Chinese. He's been over there about 30 times. He would take young Minnesota high school students over there to meet, to have, in delegations to meet with Chinese people, but they weren't allowed to talk about America. They weren't allowed to talk about how great America was, only to learn from the Chinese. And these things were funded by the Chinese government. His business, and he ran this as a business, had contracts with the Chinese government. He was effectively an unregistered agent of the Chinese Communist Party who later ran for vice president. But, there's nothing to see here, right? No, absolutely. If Tim Walz is not a Chinese agent, I don't know how you would define one.
Now, tell me what's going on. We need to get Gordon Chang back on. But tell me what's going on this week with Xi Jinping. There's a big meeting being held right now in China. Is he going to hold on to power? What's going to happen to Xi Jinping?
Look, I don't know, but the military, the Chinese military is preparing for war. And there will be elements in China who don't think they're quite ready for war, but the military seems hell-bent on it. And it seems to me that the military is exerting its power and Xi Jinping's role is coming to an end. And I do not think for a moment that Xi Jinping is really the leader of China. He is appointed by the CCP, is answerable to the CCP, just as Vladimir Putin is not really the leader of Russia. He is the tool of the Soloviki, the intelligence state, the KGB state, the old Communist Party networks. So no, I think he's being phased out because he's a civilian leader, getting his health is suffering, his prestige is suffering. He's not the man to lead China in a war.
Well, here we go. Inconvenient Truths by Jennifer Zing. Just completed verification. All commanders and political commissioners of the People's Liberation Army, Navy, Rocket Force, and the 5 theater commands have been removed from their posts. Some have been prosecuted. Some are under investigation. Others have been dismissed. Not a single one has been spared. This information comes from Yo Ching, a former staff officer, lieutenant colonel at the headquarters of the PLA Navy, living in the U.S. now. I was way ahead of the official news again, and rumors turned out to be true again. 7 months after I first broke the news of Wing Dong's arrest, today, the CCP finally announced it. So something's going on in China, and Gordon Chang is talking about the fact that the big station over there, CCTV's failure to report the Defense Ministry's Friday announcement of the removal of 9 officers who were Xi Jinping's loyalists is extremely strange. This, I guess, means the broadcaster is in Xi's camp. Sure, stay tuned for news, rumors, speculation, and analysis. You just said something interesting. You don't think Xi Jinping is the guy they need to be in charge when they go to war. Is that what I just heard you say, Trevor?
Yeah, well, exactly. He's not a military guy, and they have removed all his military people, meaning people loyal to him. So who is doing that? I would surmise that it is the more militant military wing of the CCP, which is getting ready for war. And so they don't want softies like Xi Jinping in power, a civilian leader. They want a general or someone who's much closer to the military, and they want military people who aren't tainted by Xi Jinping's rule. Which is, Xi Jinping has mainly been an economic guy and a subversion guy. He hasn't been a war man, a warrior, and the Chinese will want someone who's more suited to that. So, I think we could quite soon see Xi Jinping go, and that will be the sign that hostilities are in the offing, I think.
America's supply chain. Peter Navarro has been warning that America's supply chain runs right through China's ports. So how can we deal with China when our supply chain and our drugs and so much more are dependent on China? Trevor?
Well, that's the thing. That's why China recently cut off the supply of rare earth minerals to the United States. And where do they get rare earth minerals from? Well, a lot of them come from Afghanistan, which Joe Biden gave to China effectively. We have a big problem there, which Trump and Hegseth and others have been doing their best to mitigate that, to bring, chip manufacturing back to the United States, for instance, because we depend too much on South Korea and Taiwan for our computer chips, but also rare earth minerals are being actively explored now in the United States and Wyoming and other places, because they can see, it's like getting to war with Hitler and putting in an order for German steel for your tanks or your planes. Well, you're not going to get it, are you? So the administration is very wise to be looking for other ways of getting rare earth minerals, domestic ways, because they know that China is intent on war And China's not going to be supplying us rare earth minerals or technologies or drugs or, well, except for illegal fatal drugs or anything else that we might need. So I think this is a big part of Trump's tariff proposals, to try and get as much of what we need from steel to pharmaceuticals manufactured at home, because he can see that the hot wars are coming.
The hot wars are coming. You know, we've been warning about Yasser Qadi, the imam who had a mosque down the road from me, who's now in Texas building a 402-acre compound. We've been warning about him for years. Very few people even wanted to pay attention. Many so-called Bible teachers and their staff were defending James White, who did an interfaith dialogue with him right in our backyard. But again, like most evangelicals and most people in America, they don't pay attention to something until they think it's going to impact them personally, which means they wait till it's too late. So now all of a sudden, there's all this talk for the last year plus about Yasser Qadi. We're like, yeah, well, we tried telling you about this character in 2008.
Driven largely by Amy Meck and the foundation. You have to give her full credit for that.
Yep. Yeah. Although we were talking about him long before her, but yes,
I know. But
we were on this dude back in 2007, 2008. But yes, she's now joined. She has. Which, by the way, we've invited her on the broadcast several times, but I don't think she texts me back. I don't think she does a lot of interviews. But we'd love to put her on the show, put her on the network, interview her. But we're glad she picked it up. But she's one of the few, because we've been talking about that character forever. And I bring that up to say that there's another one we've been talking about for years. Siraj Wahhaj. This guy was brought to the mosque down the road from where we're sitting right now by Yasser Qadi. Yasser Qadi brought Siraj Wahhaj to his compound in Plano. Now, over the weekend, the internet is exploding with everybody wanting to talk about Siraj Wahhaj. Well, that's nice. But again, why are Americans always so far behind? And why has he come back up? Because the guy running for mayor of New York, Mandani, is palling around with Siraj Wahhaj, who is an unindicted co-conspirator in the bombing of the World Trade Center. And you guys might remember a few years ago where some Islamic dude was training young jihadis in the deserts of the Southwest. That's Siraj Wahhaj's son. Okay, so Fox News is talking about this now, finally. A lot of others are talking about it. But again, they're talking about it too late. Siraj Wahhaj is perhaps the most well-known imam in America. Here he is. Here's a clip of him. I've played this many times. Here he is back in 1991.
You don't get embarrassed because it's the American thing. You get embarrassed in politics because politics can be a weapon to use to aid the cause of Islam. It is an honor to die in jihad. Yes, it's an honor.
You want to defend this country. You know what this country is? It's a garbage can. It's filthy. It's filthy and sick.
Every day they will go to school and they'll put an American flag in front of these little babies, Muslim babies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
That's Siraj Wahhaj. Now he's running around with Mandani, who's running for mayor, an Islamist and a Marxist. Trevor?
Well, you're right, Brannon. You've been calling attention to this for some time. Islam is not, well, a friend said this, Islam is a political system masquerading as a religion. It is political, very political. It is modeled, the Muslim Brotherhood was started by the Egyptian Communist Party back in the 1920s. So it works on a communist cell structure, and it infiltrates, and it never says what it really intends to do. Its goal is power and domination. Nihad Awad, the head of CARE, has got a new plan out right now, plan to train up 100,000 people by 2050 to penetrate the law and politics and academia.
Can I stop you right there, because you had no idea where I was going, but I had that already queued up. the head of CARE, the head of CARE, which is tied back to Hamas. I mean, Muslim Brotherhood was founded in 1928 in Egypt. Hamas founded in 1987. CARE founded in 1994, I think it was. Okay, their groups are all connected and tied. You agree?
Yes, absolutely. CARE is basically the front for Hamas in America, and Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood.
And
very, very tied together.
And Amy Meat brings out a video where the head of CARE, who has said Black Lives Matter is our matter, Black Lives Matter is our campaign too, the red-green axis. They're going to train up, according to this video I'm going to play, they're trying to train up 100,000 journalists, 100,000 filmmakers, 100,000 lawyers and policy operatives. Do you know what that means, 100,000 lawyers, folks? That means what they plan to do is to bring lawsuits, I think, against groups like mine to keep us tied up in court and defund us. I am already told by credible sources that the IRGC has already declared a fatwa financially on my organization. Did you know that? We found out about a year ago.
I didn't, but that doesn't surprise me in the least.
They've declared a fatwa on our organization, wanting to try to get us involved in a situation where we can't financially continue. So 100,000 journalists, 100,000 filmmakers, 100,000 lawyers, and 100,000 potential candidates, okay? And let's remember now, back in 2017, now we've been covering Islam a long time here too, folks, so is Trevor. But back in 2017, we really went pedal to the metal because in 2017, we had a gunman from Saudi Arabia come into our conference in Sioux Falls. He did 7 months in federal prison for that. We then exposed James White having his interfaith dialogue here in town with Yasser Qadi, who's now in Plano, who's hanging around with Siraj Wahhaj, who we just played. Now people want to talk about Siraj Wahhaj and Yasser Qadi years and years later. But guess who was our opposition when we were trying to talk about all that in 2017? Our opposition was Phil Johnson, the executive director of Grace Church, of Grace to You, John MacArthur's ministry. And John and I knew each other, and we would email, and I told John, get your tack dog under control. He's barking up the wrong tree. John refused to do it. So evangelical Christians, you were thrown to the dogs, I believe. I believe you were thrown to the dogs by these hyper-Calvinists, okay? And John MacArthur refused to get Phil under control. Justin Peters, that little guy who we were so nice to, gave him a show, promoted him, mostly because we felt sorry for him, which was stupid on my part after the fact. He's on video saying Islam is not a threat to the church in America. And yet, my friends, what you're going to find out is when you get these 100,000 lawyers and journalists and filmmakers, they're going to start prosecuting hate crime laws, everything they can to shut down churches left and right, and radio, Christian radio, freedom of speech. And you'll have no one to blame but your hyper-Calvinists who, instead of joining us in 2017, warning about Yasser Qadi and Siraj Wahhaj, attacked us, put out on social media where I went to church, so I had to leave that church, doxed my home address. As I said in my book, A Religious Trojan Horse in 2011, the greatest threat to America are the false Christians, the false dominant church that's rising. That's the greatest threat to America. Because if there was a real church that wasn't infiltrated by a false church, we could solve a lot of these problems. We are some of the best writers, researchers, speakers, preachers, teachers, broadcasters. We have skills in this area for decades. The evangelical world has, but the evangelical world was infiltrated by false teachers and men who've risen from within to draw away the disciples after themselves. Would you agree with any of this, Trevor?
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of it, Brannon. And I'm not a theology expert, but I do know that the left has heavily penetrated the churches. So you've got two kinds of problems in the churches. One is outright left-wing penetration, actual Marxists getting inside the church, pretending to be Christians, and others, the very naive wing of the church, who misunderstands the concept of love to confuse it with being nice to everybody. Well, love isn't being nice to everybody all the time. Sometimes when you love your child, you got to spank them. You got to call people to account. And if you have a religion in this country, look, when I came to America, I had to swear that I'd never been involved in any communist or socialist organization or Nazi organization that sought to overthrow or undermine the US Constitution. But if you're a Sharia compliant Muslim, you know, you believe in Sharia law, you believe that is God's supreme law and everybody on earth must conform to it, that supersedes the US Constitution, of course, you are at odds with the US Constitution. If Islam was purely political and didn't have a religious veneer, Muslims wouldn't be allowed in this country, just like communists and Nazis wouldn't be, because they're all cut from the same cloth. It's only the fact that Islam has a religious veneer and is therefore people think it's protected by the First Amendment, that they're able to do this. If Islam is treated purely as a political organization, which I believe is the main problem with it, you wouldn't be allowed in the country if you're a practicing Muslim, because you are here to overthrow and undermine the US Constitution. And if you don't think that's a threat to the Christian church or Americans' liberties, you are beyond naive or you are complicit, one of the two, because it is absolutely a threat to both.
And so while the so-called church in America has been infiltrated by hyper-Calvinist, replacement theology, and all the other things we can go to the line, the Islamists are gaining steam. As the so-called evangelicals have been taught by people like James White and others, and defended by Phil Johnson of John MacArthur's Grace to You, apparently, that evangelism is interfaith dialogue. Even though Syed Qutb of the Muslim Brotherhood said interfaith dialogue is a one-way bridge to bring the non-Muslim to our side, not the other way around. So while the rug is being pulled out from underneath real Christians by leaders that should have never gotten where they are, if we actually had people who were discerning, they would have never gotten where they are, because you would have identified their false theology as just that, and you wouldn't have let them print their books, publish their books with any reputable group, or promoted them. But people aren't discerning, so these guys get false teachers, and these guys get a following, and then they use the following, guess what, to undermine the real church. And now while that's all been going on, here you have CARE saying we're going to develop 100,000 journalists, 100,000 lawyers, 100,000 filmmakers, and 100,000 candidates. I mean...
Yeah, that's like saying the Communist Party or a fascist group says we're going to get 100,000 fascists, we're going to get 100,000 communists, which they have actually already. But this is very explicit. They are not here to learn from our society. Look, a Sharia-compliant Muslim believes the whole world belongs to Allah. And anybody who's not a Muslim is a trespasser. So the world, they're not invading us, they're just taking it back for Allah. That's their duty to do it. Now, how do we think this is not going to impact us in the future? You see any country, look, put it this way. When's the last time you had a Muslim missionary knock on your door? Say, come down to the mosque, hear about Allah. Almost all of Islam, almost the entire Islamic world has become that way through either demographics or military invasion. There's very, very limited examples of Muslim proselytization. It's all been by military force and conquest. So Islam is not the same as Hinduism or Sikhism or Mormonism or, any other religion on the planet, because it's primarily political and a religion of conquest. And so therefore it should be treated as primarily as a political organization, not as a religious organization. And if it was treated as a political organization, which it absolutely is, by any standard, practicing Muslims would not be allowed to enter this country on a permanent basis.
And now here is CARE talking about just a few minutes of CARE talking about their goal to build up these 100,000 lawyers, 100,000 journalists, 100,000 filmmakers, 100,000 candidates to implement Islam. What?
The tide is shifting and there is a vacuum. How the Muslim community is going to fill this? And you say, is this khutbah about politics? No. This khutbah is about the ummah affairs. This khutbah is about our future. This khutbah is about akhirah. This khutbah is about what to do next. We have been blessed, and here's the action plan. Brothers and sisters, we have 4,000 mosques in the country. 4,000 mosques. If each mosque establishes a small fund for scholarship to give scholarships for 5 students in the following areas. 1, for journalism, to tell our story. Another one for filmmaking, to influence the culture, to be fair. Third, to defend our rights and the rights of other people. Fourth, political science, to engage in policy making effectively and scientifically. And fifth, scholarship for history, to preserve the truth, because history is important. If our mosques continue on this path and start in 2026, forget about 25, 5 years from now, we will have 4,000 journalists, 4,000 filmmakers, 4,000 lawyers, 4,000 political scientists and analysts, and 4,000 students of history that can be teachers of history. In 12 years, if we are consistent, the Muslim community will have 50,000 of each. In the year 2050, imagine, the Muslim community will have 100,000 of each. Then we will tell our own story. We will defend the people who are oppressed. And many of those people who studied law, most likely they can run for public office at all levels of government in our society. Those are areas that the Muslim community has not paid attention to. And moving forward, the Muslim community needs to pay attention and build political power.
Build political power. There you have it. They have a plan.
Yeah, I didn't see him talking about bring people to Allah. I didn't see him talking about bring people to the Muslim faith. It's about political power. Like Nihad Awad, before he became a Hamas supporter, and he's an open Hamas supporter, was a leader of the General Union of Palestinian Youth in America, which is affiliated to the Soviet Front World Federation of Democratic Youth. He was a Communist Front activist before he became an Islamic activist. And he still talks exactly like a Communist Front activist today, because that's what he is. CARE is a Communist Front. And this proves my point. We're dealing with a political phenomenon, not primarily a religious phenomenon. It's a political phenomenon with a religious veneer.
And what will happen will be what's now going on in Nigeria, where we have Christians being slaughtered. We have one lady whose husband was murdered in front of her. Her child, who's 3, was murdered in front of her. And her 10-month-old child was slaughtered in front of her, and she had her hand chopped off. What's going on in Nigeria, folks, is coming to America unless we wake up. And I'm not going to say unless the churches wake up, because most of what we have that are called churches are not churches, okay? Those are social clubs, okay? Those are places where people go to get some pop culture, get some pop psychology, have some, thumping music with a light system and smoke machine and a coffee and go home. We are the church, okay? We're the church. But if you sit around and wait for your local church to do anything, They're not going to do anything. We've been holding Worldview Weekend since 1993. And back then, we had a lot of them working with us. And then the churches were taken over with a purpose-driven model of Rick Warren and others, Peter Drucker, which was, there are all kinds of customers out there. Why isn't your church bigger? Because you're not catering to all the customers. Find out what your customers want. Who are the customers? Everybody in your society. So take a survey of what people want and give them that kind of church. And guess what? The average community church that's been driven by what the world wants is not going to talk about Islam and contrast it to a biblical worldview. They don't even want to talk about the Bible unless it's ripped and twisted to make them feel good and appease them and tickle their ears. So what is happening in Nigeria, I can promise you it's coming to America if we stay on this trajectory. Do you disagree with that, Trevor?
Look, I 100% agree. Look, my good friend Jad Saul is one of the key activists in this country, advocating on the behalf of Nigerian Christians who are being slaughtered at a horrible rate right now. And he's working, trying to get the Trump administration to do something about this, to put pressure on the Nigerian government. But yeah, look, there has been no country that I'm aware of that was taken over by Islam or become to be dominated by Islam without considerable violence. I don't, look, if I'm not a historian, I'm not Nihad Awad, I don't know all the history, but in modern, I don't know any that haven't been taken over with violence and having violence perpetrated on the non-Muslim populations afterwards, whether they be Hindu or Buddhist or Christian or Sikh or Jain or whatever. There is a history of Muslims subjugating and forcibly converting and often murdering those they conquer.
Well,
so why would it be different here?
Yeah, why would it be different
here?
If
you're not going to bend the knee to Islam, how are you going to function in an Islamic-dominated society?
And here's this poor Nigerian woman whose husband was murdered by the Islamists, her 10-year-old, her 3-month-old, and her hand chopped off. You guys pray for her tonight. Add her to your prayer list and all those Nigerians. Can you imagine having your husband, your wife murdered in front of you, raped in front of you, then murdered? Your 10-year-old, your 3-month-old murdered in front of you? It was her 3-year-old, and her 10-month-old. I just, and largely the media is silent on this. Where are the protests for the Christians in Nigeria in the streets of America? Where are the newscasts? This is largely unheard. This is so underreported in the U.S., Trevor.
Because Christians are the one religious group that are not allowed to be victims, according to the media. You cannot report on instances where Christians are being victimized. If Muslims are being victimized, anyone else is being victimized, that's sort of okay, but not Christians, because Christians, they have it coming because they've been dominating the earth and imposing their terrible civilization on other nations for 1,000 years. And it's about time they got what's coming to them. That's the attitude of the left. And most journalists have some degree of that attitude going on.
Yep. All right. We've got a lot to do, Trevor. We've got to teach people what Islam is. We've got to teach them what Marxism is. We've got to teach them how these worldviews are working together. We've got to teach them how. I just got an email or a text from a gal who is an expert on Islam, and she just watched one of our programs on how hyper-Calvinists are promoting replacement theology and really breeding anti-Semitism. And she said, how did this ever come in to Calvinism? And I said, stand by, I'll call you and give you a briefing. This came from John Calvin. Sadly, it came from Martin Luther. You know, these people were anti-Semitic, and it's bred its way, and now it's mainstream into the church, the replacement theology. God's done with the Jews. He's done with Israel. Doesn't need to deal with the Jews anymore. That's now gives a, you know, basically this attitude of so what that Islam's rising. And they've been taught that Islam is just misunderstood, that most Muslims are peaceful. When reality is there's only one Islam. There's not a moderate. There's not a radical. There's one Islam. It includes the murder of the Christians and the Jews, kill the people, the Saturday people going to synagogue, kill the Sunday people, the people going to church. And, you know, the Bible says my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, acquisition of truth about the Bible, of course. But the Bible tells us to know these things, to understand the times and know how to respond. And yet, that's why we started Worldview Weekend conferences and did them over 300 locations around the country, because the average American doesn't understand the various worldviews, Islam, communism, postmodernism. I could name the rest that are not only here, but now have merged. And if we don't teach more people what's coming, this is going to be a horrific situation for our country and my children, my grandchildren.
Yeah, well, exactly right, Brannon, because as you say, Christianity has been so dumbed down in this country and so commercialized and so lowest common denominator that it won't even call out evil in its own flock, let alone evil elsewhere. You'll go to a lot of churches before you'll even hear the word evil muttered or even said. It's all about love, and we must focus on love and never on evil. Well, there's two, you know, if you believe in love, you got to believe in evil. If you believe in God, you got to believe in Satan. If you believe in good, you have to believe in evil. You know, you can't have one without the other. One, you know, good will eventually dominate, but we cannot have good triumphing if you ignore evil. You know, I was talking to Judd about his work in Nigeria, Judd Saul, and he's lobbying right today. And he says he goes to a village, and there'll be a lot of the villages were mixed. There would be Christians and Muslims would live side by side, and they'd live that way for 50 years. Then one day they'd get a call, the Muslims will get a call, and they go around slaughtering all the Christians. You know, because they are answerable to the imam. They're answerable to the hierarchy of Islam. And if they do not obey that, they might be the ones being slaughtered. You know, Islam is not a religion of love. It's a religion of submission. And you must submit at every level to those above you. That's exactly the opposite of the American system. That's the exact opposite of Christianity. Christianity believes you have a direct relationship with God, not with your county sheriff or mayor or congressman or senator. You know, God is who you answer to, not the civil authorities ultimately. But in Islam, you answer to the hierarchy because it's very hierarchical. And the top Muslims, they answer to Allah. And it happens to be that Allah always agrees with what the mullahs want, you know, or what the emir wants. It's like the old, you know, divine right of kings years ago in Europe. You know, the king spoke to God and he told people what to do. And God always agreed with what the king wanted. You know, it's very convenient that way. Well, that's how Islam is today. Islam has never been through a reformation. It is still the same theologically as it was in the 7th century when Muhammad went around slaughtering every tribe in the vicinity and exacting tribute from them. You know, he started his religion by killing everybody he could and subjugating people. And that philosophy has never been disavowed. There's never been a reformation to say that that's not okay. That's not how we do things now. And it is still how things are done. It's been done in Nigeria because they can. It's been done in the Middle East because they can. And when they can, they will do it here too.
That's exactly right. When they can, they'll do it here as well. All I can tell you, folks, get armed, Get armed, because they are planning on October 7th here. And already we see that we've been sending $40 million a week to the Taliban. And Congressman Tim Burchett's trying to stop it. Others are trying to stop it. $40 million a week have been going to the Taliban. And they're trying to it's passed the House. It's now stalled in the Senate to turn this off. We're funding our own slaughter and murder. And they're gonna carry out an October 7th event here, folks. And I don't know where they're gonna do it, but if it's your town, you better be armed and you better be ready to hunker down and defend your family, because your local officials will not be able to help everyone. My local officials didn't even know who the imam was down the road when I told them back in 2017. I asked some of them, do you know who this guy is? No. Do you know he's barred from going into parts of Europe? No. Do you know who Siraj Wahaj is? No. He's an unindicted co-conspirator of the bombing of the World Trade Center. He just spoke at the mosque down the street. Huh. There was zero curiosity, Trevor.
Well, that's the thing, the police in the big cities in America used to have police intelligence squads, and they would monitor radicals, terrorists, extremists. They were all abolished in the 70s under pressure from the communists. The communists got all of that protection abolished. The only big city, I believe, that now has a police intelligence department is New York. And I think at Mandami will probably abolish that too. And I think that intelligence department is the only reason we haven't had another 9/11 up till now. And if they abolish that department, I wonder what will happen then.
Here it is, TrevorLoudon.com, TrevorLoudon.com, and you'll find all of his books. Book him to speak for you. It's all there. TrevorLoudon.com, TrevorLoudon.com. How long have we been working together, Trevor? What's it been, 15, 20 years yet?
Probably 15. First interviews were probably about 2011, 2012, something like that. Not quite sure. It's been a while.
Wow. Well,
but you've always you haven't altered your stance, have you? You haven't moved. You haven't changed your views with the times.
Neither have you. We're both just two intolerant fuddy-duddies stuck in the mud and not moving.
That's right. But we can both sleep at night, can we not?
That's absolutely we can. Yes, I can. TrevorLoudon.com. Thank you, Trevor.
It was a pleasure, Brannon.
You too.
Thanks to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out his books. Get his books. He's got so many great books over there. So much history at TrevorLoudon.com. We'll be right back after this break.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisaw collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
All right, I want to talk with Michael Weiner about a few things, but first, here is an organization, the World Bank, International Monetary Fund. They were having a little conversation about where things are going. I want you to listen to this, folks. Here we go. This is why you need to make sure you're somewhat out of their system that they're putting in place. Here we go.
have a beautiful opportunity in front of us with the United States being such an unmitigated disaster as it currently is. Okay? So there is the opportunity, and within that opportunity, I would suggest three things. The first one, we have to have a global asset registry. We have to know who has the freaking money. And if they don't want you to know that they have the money or how much money they have, chances are they got it from somewhere they shouldn't have gotten it from, and they're spending it on something they shouldn't be spending it from. So number one, a global asset registry. Number two, we have to facilitate an international conversation about what is enough. And that if there is a number that is enough, there is a number that is too much. We believe that money becomes power, and when power threatens your democracy, you have to take away power, and the only way to take away that power is by taking away the money. And the only way to take away the money is taxation. So number three, forget progressivity. All right? Forget progressivity, unless by progressivity you mean taxation that makes people less rich. This is not about a 2% wealth tax when somebody's getting a higher return than that. This is about taxation in order to preserve human freedom, to preserve the...
Wow, this is about power. As she said, it's about a global registry of everything you have. Now, let's talk about America going bankrupt, because they're going to use, I think, the bankruptcy of America to implement this digital system and this global registration and tokenization of all goods. Logan, see if you can also find that clip by Jamie Dimon recently. He just said something about tokenizing everything. You have it? You find it while I play this one. Here we go.
Bankrupt. And if they don't stop America going bankrupt, we all have a massive problem. So America today has explicit debt of $36 trillion. That's a very, very big number. There has never been a country that has had $36 trillion of debt. Now, that is somewhere in the region of 120 to 125% of debt to GDP. Now, in the mid-90s, it was Stanford and Harvard professors Reinhardt and Rogoff put together this study called This Time is Different. It's a massive book. It's about 800 pages. They studied a lot of sovereign debt crises through the ages, and they worked out that 90% debt to GDP was about the maximum that could be sustained by an economy before it ultimately ended up in a financial crisis.
And that's where we are, folks. We're over 100. Okay? So this crisis is going to allow them to do a lot of things, right? Just as a world war checks all the boxes, a financial crash or collapse can check a lot of boxes for them. Listen to what the new head of the World Economic Forum, Larry Fink, is saying. Play this, Logan, please.
I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities, the bonds, across the board. There's $4.1 trillion of money sitting globally in digital wallets. A lot of that money is outside the United States. If we could tokenize an ETF, digitize that ETF, we could have investors who are just beginning to, invest in markets through, let's say, crypto. They're investing in it, but now we could get them into the more traditional long-term retirement products. So we look at that as the next wave of opportunity for BlackRock over the next tens of years, as we start moving away from traditional financial assets by repotting them in a digital manner, and then having people stay in that digital ecosystem.
Yeah, stay in that digital ecosystem. And when they don't like that you go to certain rallies, like they did in Canada, remember the truckers in Canada? They just went after their bank accounts, debanked them, took their stuff, took their property. That's going to be so easy on tokenization, and everything is digitized. But we have more things leading us to this collapse. And not to mention there's an economic war on, and we've made it very easy for our enemies. Well, like China, listen to this.
Billion of U.S. debt, which they do. Then, of course, the United States, as the borrower, has to pay interest, which means that you and I and everybody else gets to pay taxes every year that go to Washington, where they don't fund our roads or schools or hospitals. It's money that the United States government collects and sends to Beijing to pay interest on the debt. And the Chinese use to develop the Red Army. Do you understand? All of this has to happen beneath the surface. Because if Americans understood what I just said, they would realize that beneath all the reality is the opposite. That's the reality of the economic of capitalism.
Now, I don't know that that's the reality of capitalism. So if he's saying that to trash on capitalism, no, this is not the result of capitalism. This is a result of corporatism. This is the result of the third way, thesis and antithesis, idea, opposite idea, socialism, capitalism merging for what I call communitarianism, big government, big business merging, communism light, fascism, whatever you want to call it. And then we have the fact that we don't have enough skilled workers anymore. We've told too many young people, go to college and get your college degree so you can come out stupider and $100,000 in debt with a worthless degree, most of them, or with degrees that are too abundant or not specific enough. And now we don't have trade schools like we should in our schools, you know, where we're teaching shop and so many other things in the schools, mechanics and so much in the schools. And I'm not interested in the government, by the way, saying who goes to college and who goes to trade school. That shouldn't be the government doing that. That's one thing they want to do, which is the 10th plank of the Communist Manifesto, the merging of education with industrial production. I'm not for that. I'm for the market deciding, the parents deciding, the students deciding. But we don't have enough skilled workers. This is also hurting our economy. Listen to this from the CEO of Ford Motor Company.
Morning when I woke up, there were 6,000 bays in our dealerships with no technician, so can't get my car fixed. Nope.
6,000 bays. 6,000 bays with no mechanics.
2 weeks. Average wait is 2 weeks. Not because we don't have the parts, we don't have the mechanics. Factory workers, construction workers, farmers, all the people that move things, truck drivers, rail workers, and people who fix things, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, all the people that basically work with their hands.
Why is there a shortage of these workers?
Well, it's a complicated problem, but there is, let's put it that way, literally 1 million openings right now. Technicians in dealerships working on cars. At Ford, we have 6,000, probably 400,000 repair technician shortages across the economy. First of all, the productivity has not caught up with the white collar. In fact, it's gone down over the last 20 years. Number two, the jobs aren't as glamorous as a white collar job from college. And I think the permitting and all the regulations has really stunted the growth of these kind of jobs.
The over-regulation. Now, here's another clip. Again, this is showing you all the many problems we have. Any of these problems in and of themselves are pretty big problems. But then you add it collectively together, and I think you kind of get a picture of where we're really at. Spent quite a bit of time over the weekend researching all this and grabbing these clips together. I thought I've got to show my listening friends and viewing friends this because I want them to understand the big picture of where we're going. That's what we do here. We project trends. We look at trends, and so people can understand what's happening and take the necessary steps and protections and precautions. Listen to this one.
Going down a road, and if he succeeds, he's going to create millions of manufacturing jobs in a country that currently has nearly 500,000 manufacturing jobs open.
Okay, so if Trump goes down the right road here, he's going to create a lot of manufacturing jobs. Well, great. We already have 500,000 slots open with no one to fill them.
Because the people who run those factories can't find people who want to do the work. So it's not enough to create the jobs. Right. But the bigger issue still is there's no enthusiasm for the work. We took shop class out of high school. We robbed kids of the opportunity to even see what that kind of work even looks like. Meanwhile, we told a whole generation of kids they were screwed if they didn't get a 4-year degree. So now you got $1.7 trillion in student debt on the books. You've got 7.6 million open jobs right now, most of which don't require a 4-year degree. And here's the other screwed up part. You got 6.8 million able-bodied men who are not only not looking for work, they're out of the workforce and not looking. So something beyond the tariffs, something beyond policy is going to have to happen to make 22-year-olds go, yeah, man, I would consider.
Wow. 6.8 million guys not even looking for work. Then let's add in all the ones that have died from the COVID bioweapon shot, and then all of those that have been injured from the bioweapon shot. Now, here's the CEO of Land O'Lakes talking about what's happening to our American farmers right now. Listen to this.
Is devastation. And that's not too strong of a word on some farms. Now, you've had land value increase over time, and that means they can collateralize operating loans. And so some of them can get loans, operating loans to plant for next year, but some of them will be challenged and they will move into a risk of bankruptcy. And it's not just what's happening on the farm. That means what's happening in their communities, right? What's happening at the hardware store, what's happening at the school, et cetera. And I think it's important that we all understand rural America, 19% of the population. By the way, they comprise 44% of the military. Service is deeply embedded in these communities. And when you don't have income, when you don't have revenue, rural hospitals have shut down, rural banks have shut down. 70% of the counties in America that index as food insecure are in rural America, housing crisis, et cetera. And so when I'm out in the country, and I'm there quite frequently with farmers or in these communities, it's present that you have these conversations and you try to understand what's going on with their families. 90% of farms are still family owned. These are families, many of whom could be considered hobby farmers because they have to work off the farm, driving a truck, teach in school, in order to feed their own families.
Pitiful. And unfortunately, it's becoming very difficult now that China is not buying up the soybeans and other things. Here is a CNN piece. Doesn't mean it's not right, though. I mean, she's interviewing the farmer. Let's see what the farmer has to say.
Agree? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm totally mad. There's no reason for it. This is absolute stupidity. This is a man-made crisis caused by Donald Trump, period.
John Bartman is a soybean farmer whose family has been working Illinois land since before the Civil War. This year, his crops, diligently planted, meticulously cared for, are losing their value.
This is a yield monitor. This allows me to see instantly what my yield is doing. So this is 4,134. So that's roughly $40,000 worth of soybeans that we have harvested. And a couple of years ago, that was easily $60,000. So that's a major change. This is the economics. It's what we do in this country. We export food. And we can't do that right now.
Soybeans are the largest agricultural export from the U.S., valued at more than $24 billion last year, 52% of which was exported to China. But this year, soybean exports to China are down 51% compared with the same time period last year. The drop comes as China stopped buying soybeans from the U.S. and an escalating trade war. President Donald Trump insists farmers will win the trade war. Posting on Truth Social October 1st, "We've made so much money on tariffs that we are going to take a small portion of that money and help our farmers. I will never let our farmers down." John Bartman is skeptical.
Bailout's not going to do it. Bailout, unfortunately, we need the money.
Once you lose a customer like China, can you ever get them back?
I sincerely doubt it. Why would they?
And less people think, oh, well, this is all just political. We even have Senator Grassley, a conservative Republican, moderate Republican, whatever you want to call him, depending on how you view him, of Iowa. Here's what he's saying.
And this president should deal with this farm crisis right now. I'm hearing from bankers. I'm hearing from people that are getting pressed by their bankers to maybe sell part of their farm. So they want to sell to somebody that when they build up their equity, they might be able to buy it back. We haven't had this kind of stress in agriculture since the 1980s. Putting 50% tariffs on things that have steel in them when you can't buy those things in the United States and you need them for your tractor to be finally manufactured. There shouldn't be tariffs on things that you can't get in the United States. Why drive up the price of John Deere's because of a tariff on something they need for the tractor that they can't even get in the United States? It's a stupid policy.
Mm. And of course, this is going to have real world problems on to all of us. No doubt about it. Here's another one where we go to Michael Weiner. This is Arkansas farmers.
I've been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
He said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of your love.
5 of my customers have committed. That's how serious that this is.
And what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
We made a decision to go out this year in the spring. So my son will not be the seventh generation on our farm.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Did you ever think we'd be talking about a food crisis in America? Well, we actually talked about that several years ago and said that that was a real possibility. And now one has to ask, who's buying up all the farmland? Is this being done on purpose so massive corporations can buy up this farmland? Because you might want to go look up Acre Tracker, and then go check and look at all the people who have stock in that company. It goes, I guess, and buys up distressed farms. See, any of these issues by themselves are a big problem. It's a big problem. But it's not just one issue. It's all that I have shown you collectively. Now, I don't do this tonight to make you depressed. I do this because I spent part of my weekend doing show prep and research for this week. And I got to thinking about how I need to show my audience what all the different trends are and how they're going to impact them so they can get ready, they can prepare, and they can understand that a crisis is going to be exploited. All these crises will be exploited for your state capital and the folks in Washington to largely take more and more and more control and power. Joining me now is Michael Weiner. Michael, what do you make of these clips I've been showing tonight?
It's eye-opening stuff, especially the soybean issue, which is probably even the most major, as well as the fact of the crash of the U.S. dollar, which I have been talking about, as well as the metamorphosis that's going on economically across the world. The situation with the soybean issue needs to be addressed. It can't be stepped to the side. I think Trump recently said on television that he's going to deal with the Chinese and that we can't sustain a long battle. I've got some issues with this at this point. You know, let's end this stuff. That's enough of the deal. The art of the deal is over. Finish it, okay? Because at this point, people are suffering. And it's going to affect the Republican Party. It's going to affect the election coming up. Stop the dickering and end this garbage. And start paying attention to the farmers and other issues. And trust me, I love Donald Trump, as you well know, but these issues are getting way out of hand. And him and Bassat has got to stop thinking they're going to bury China and get this thing done, because the people that are suffering are all of us in a lot of different ways. And that goes on with what's going on with when you're talking about the digital world that we're heading into, that you went into initially, and what's going to be going on around that. That's the metamorphosis of the world. And that's why Trump even openly stated that the economy is going to be flipping. It's sort of like going from dial phones to push buttons. And people, we have been warning them. I've been saying it on the show repetitively, and nobody gets it. So again, tell me later, pay more, and protect late. You're going to be foolish, because there's something coming up right now, literally in the next 2 weeks, that could have a devastating effect on the financial markets, and nobody's talking about it.
Well, what is that? What is it? What is it? What is it, Michael?
The Supreme Court is deciding on Trump's ability to place tariffs. Right now, many of the constitutional lawyers and a lot of the Democratic, not Republican constitutional lawyers, openly are stating there's probably a 75% chance he's going to lose. And that's because it's a constitutional issue. The ability for taxation is with Congress, not the executive office. So when that happens and those tariffs get tossed out, there's money that's going to have to be returned. It's going to be a total disaster. Now, people are saying that he's going to sit back and he's making some secondary plans, and I'm happy to hear that, because I'm a person that's for tariffs, but doing it properly. Apparently, if they come out it was done improperly, then we are going to pay a lot of dues, and those dues will include a drawback in the stock market. Could be anywhere 20 to 25% or more. Don't expect a warning from anybody till after it happens, and watch what happens to gold. At that point in time, we could see $4,500 gold. I'm ahead of schedule this year. That's because of the fact that that we're going into this 20 days. It's 19 days now of the situation of the government being shut down, and that is not something that the Republicans are bearing. It's the Democrats, but none of these people are representing the people. The Democrats are socialists. They don't care. They love this. The Republicans, I don't know what they can do other than there's going to be suffering. So right now, the best thing for people to do is to review their portfolios and get protected adequately. And, that's what we see going on with gold right now. It's up $104 today. I can't tell you how many people contacted us over the week. Oh, well, gold's on its way. There's going to be a crash. It went down $80 today. So what? Okay? If it went down, it needs to occasionally. But the upward trend in this market is like Jamie Dimon came out and now is stating 20% of your net worth in gold. You've got the people at B of A calling for $6,000 gold, because they realize when they do business globally around the world, and I've said it 8 months ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, gold is money, and they are having to work within that. That's why they are saying this.
Wow.
I'm done.
Okay, look at this. Here's Trump about China today. This is today. Here we go.
I think China's been very respectful of us. They're paying tremendous amounts of money to us in the form of tariffs. As you know, they're paying 55%. That's a lot of money. They never were paying anything over years and years and years. But they were like anybody else. A lot of countries took advantage of the U.S. They're not taking advantage anymore. No, China's paying 55% and a potential 155% come November 1st, unless we make a deal. And I'm meeting with President Xi. We have a very good relationship. We're going to be meeting in September.
Okay, so it could be 155% by November 1st if they don't come to a deal.
And it can happen. We don't have, they're also coming to the reality, they don't have that clout. Trump said over the weekend with Maria Bartiromo that this type of trade war is unsustainable. And we need to, like I said, end the art of the deal and end this totally. We need to sit back and legitimately put this to bed. Enough with the deal already. That's too many people, again, are suffering. So that, that's going to affect this. And like I said at the beginning of all this tariff situation, during when Trump's first term came in, he blindsided everybody with this. He caught everybody off guard. Mexico and Canada cut deals right away. Everybody was at the table making deals. This time, he made it clear throughout the entire election that he was going to do it. They were all ready, and when he came in, guess what? Nobody flinched. Not this time. Everybody held their nose up. And we need to have some reality with this whole situation and start stop the bleeding, end this, and also look at the fact that the digitalizing of America is not only happening, it's not months away, it's weeks away. And I guess people just don't want to pay attention, Brannon. They just don't want to pay attention.
Listen to Basant respond to this, please.
I think we are, could we be in the third inning? So I think this is just taking off.
Third inning of investment in AI?
Oh, sure. In investment, in usage. I think there's a very good chance we see, like in the 90s, with the internet, that with office equipment finally having the productivity miracle. So we had substantial productivity increases in the 90s. I think we're starting to see that now. When I talk to Silicon Valley investors and to corporate America, they think that the AI implementation is just really going to start biting in terms of productivity first, second quarter of next year. And I think the other thing, too, is Biden administration wanted to shackle up AI through this diffusion policy. They wanted to regulate it. Just a few of the biggest companies would have had access to it. So there is tremendous latent demand.
Okay, so AI by the second or third quarter of next year is going to be helping corporations. But how long does that take before it helps the average American? Not that I'm not in favor of technological advances, but a lot of folks cannot hang on much longer. Here's what Trump told Maria Bartiromo on Sunday. Listen to this.
Investing in America, $20 trillion. No country's ever done anywhere even near that, like a fraction of that. Biden did less than $1 trillion in 4 years. I did 20 trillion. We're going to do over 17 trillion in 8 months. By the time we end, we could do over $20 trillion. There's never, in China, no matter where you go, there's never been anything like it. We are building up something that's unbelievable. And a big part of that are the tariffs, because they don't want to have to pay the tariffs, because it's so unsustainable that they come and build the pharmaceuticals and the chips and all of the things. They're coming into the United States and they're building them.
Okay, so if we're bringing in all of this money from tariffs, why not send out money to the American people and say you've overpaid your taxes? Yeah, he's talking about it, but is he going to do it?
That's a question, but understand if he loses November 5th, guess what? He's got to give this money back. The $60 billion and the other money has got to be given back. That's what I'm talking about here. That whole thing ends if that goes down. That's why there's so much. What they're talking about, it's wonderful. Bringing investment back into America, I love it. I think Trump and Basant are doing a phenomenal job. I think geopolitically around the world, he's doing some wonderful things. However, we need some things that are immediate, just like he fixed the problem with eggs and fixed the problem with oils. He's got to fix the initial needs within the common folk in this country. And if it means sending some money, they need some money.
But I would,
These people need some money.
And I would not be tweeting this kind of thing tonight. I would not be tweeting this kind of thing tonight. The average American could care less about a White House ballroom that they will never be invited to use. They will never step foot in. They don't need to hear about Washington, D.C. and all of their extra perks and parties. And I'm thankful that it's being paid for by, generous patriots, great American companies, and yours truly, as he wrote. That's what President Trump wrote. Zero cost to the American taxpayer. I get that. But the American people do not even need to be hearing about a ballroom. This is a little tone deaf. Farmers are going belly up. People are struggling. They don't need to hear about a ballroom. They need to be hearing about how is he going to make America great again. And right now, he talked about getting rid of the IRS. The terrorists were going to help us get rid of the IRS. I don't hear that talk anymore. I appreciate many of the good things he's done, but like you said, we are in a serious problem right now, and November of 2026 is coming up fast.
And God forbid these people who are the socialist communists get control of this country, because they don't care about us. Even worse. It's like going from better, worse, and to horrible. Trump, long-term wise, he's doing phenomenal. Bringing stuff back, infrastructure-wise, shipbuilding, the steel industry, oil, all these things are wonderful. Going to the rare earth minerals that he's working on, wonderful. We need short-term, 60-day, 90-day fixes right now, not just the long-term. And this is what he's got to pay attention to, period. Okay? This is what he's got to pay attention to, period. Yep. So at the end of the day, that's what the people are suffering with. Hearing about this ballroom, I'm glad he's making the White House nicer. What we want to hear about is what he's doing that's going to change our life in the next 60 to 90 days. That's what people want to hear.
Yep, 100%. Get your free report on precious metals, how to put gold into your IRA, numismatic, 1933 and older, $4,356 tonight. And silver's over $52. Wow, we're going to hit 44 pretty quick, aren't we, Mike?
Unfortunately, I'm way ahead of schedule, but if what happens in November happens, my projection will be in November, $4,500 gold. You guys who want to speculate on the price, go do it somewhere else. We don't do that. We're here about protecting yourself. We're talking about the serious things going on in the world, the serious things that people are looking at us and that we're a country that's in debt up to our yin-yang. We need to be one-dimensional, every single one of us, and review our portfolio while you can, before you can't.
Before it's a digital system and they have all your assets registered. Correct. As we started out from that International Monetary Fund clip. India's largest metals refinery ran out of silver for the first time in history. I wonder why. I don't know where it was, what country it was in, but there were lines going around the building, people trying to get in and buy gold. I can't remember what country that was, but there you go.
India.
Was it? There you go.
There used to be that in 1979 when I talked to the people who used to be in the industry like me before in the BC time when I was alive. But at this point of time, back in 1979, offices, my company, I had lines of people in front of the building to buy gold. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to people in the industry who've been around as long as I have to see the total tone deafness of what's going on. The reason why gold's going up is not because it's a hedge. It's not because it's a safe haven. It's because it's money and because we are in so much debt. Our dollar is collapsing. And if you don't join in and protect yourself, you'll go down with them.
And by the way, didn't Jamie Dimon just come out and say gold could go to 10,000?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, I think I just found the article. JP Morgan Chase CEO says gold could hit 10,000. Well, that'll be a real problem because that means something's horribly wrong with the U.S. dollar. I mean, can you imagine the inflation at that point? What kind of inflation do you think we'll be at if that happens?
Probably somewhere between 17 to 20%.
Oh, that would be acceptable compared to where I think it would be. I think it'd be way higher than that. It could be even
worse, but it depends who's running the country and how it goes. I think they'll handle it differently, but there'll be people on the wayside that just don't recover. It's like what happened in 1933. People didn't have mortgages, didn't have debt, but they didn't have money to pay the cost to carry, the cost to live. And they lost their homes and their property and other things because they sold it to eat.
Gosh. All right, folks, get your free packet, worldviewgold.com, Worldview worldviewgold.com. Again, worldviewgold.com or 602-558-8585. Text your name and phone number to Wes. He'll send out that free no obligation packet of information. Great segment tonight. Thank you, Michael.
Have a good evening. Good night, Dolly, wherever you are.
She's right there. Do we have a shot of Dolly?
That.
We don't have a shot of Dolly. We got to get the Dolly cam back up, boys. She's curled up into a knot. There she is. Look at her right in the corner there. There she is. See her sleeping? Curl up into a knot, sleeping. Mm-hmm. That's how she sleeps all night, by the way. She sleeps like that right at my knee. Curls up about my knee, up my stomach level, right next to me like that. That's how she sleeps every night. All right. Thank you, Michael. And folks, thank you. We'll be right back after this break.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, I know you and Brannon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private. So you people out there who are sitting on your hands when Wes and I are sending you these requests and Brannon and you are talking to you, you better get active. Because you're going to pay me $4,000 an ounce the end of the year. Trust me.
You better get your. I highly suggest you get your free packet. You don't have to do anything. It's free, no obligation. Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com, or just text Wes and give him your name and address and say, I want the free packet. That's all you got to do. 602-558-8585. 602-558-8585. Joining me now is our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aharon Levarko. Aaron, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Always a pleasure, Brannon. Thank you.
A lot going on in Israel, of course. We talked about a lot of it today. Give us a quick update before we go to a fascinating video about your laser dome. We all know about the Iron Dome, but the laser dome, I want to talk about that. But first, for those who maybe didn't catch our radio show and TV show at 1 o'clock Central today, give us an update on where you're at. Is the truce and ceasefire back on now?
Yes, it is. It was implemented. Again, it was implemented a few hours ago. However, this is still a mess. And while there is hope that the war's over, there's still fighting. Now, the fighting, interestingly, is between a lot of the different tribes and factions among the Palestinians. And what I've been told, Brannon, is over the last month or so, and especially since Donald Trump made the peace announcement, there's been a number of these factions and tribes that have been fighting with the IDF. Well, what's happened is the approximately 2,000 prisoners that we've released out onto the streets, they are now roaming the tunnels of Gaza, and Hamas have got a new injection of energy and fighting force. So they are now taking revenge, and we saw some of that this last week, right? With some of these people that have been caught and had their lives taken, shot in cold blood. Of course, the media's been pretty silent about that one. So from what I'm hearing, this is going to be a time where, the factions are dealing among themselves, and we may see a little bit more of this unrest within Gaza. But it seems that Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel Katz, our Israeli defense minister, they are time and time again warning Hamas, we want our hostages back, our dead hostages back. And if you don't live up to this agreement, we will take action. And if you don't lay down your weapons, we will take action. Well, in the last hour, we've got, I think it's one more dead body that's been returned. And you notice the strategy of Hamas now? They're squeezing us. They're giving us little drips. Instead of doing it overnight, why are they doing that, Brandon? Because they're rearming. They're re-strategizing. Who knows? They're probably getting smuggled weapons under these hundreds of miles of tunnels. It's all strategy. Nothing is new. But our boys, our fighters, they're up to it. And they're onto it. Our special equipped units, they're inside. They've blocked off the Philadelphia and the Khan Yunis and the Rafah crossings, although word is that they're going to be opened up for humanitarian aid. That's going to be starting to flow again. So it's still a bit messy. And as I said, okay, we've got one more dead captive back. There's still a long way to go in this. But here's where the pressure point is, Brandon. Donald Trump wants to push forward from phase 1 to phase 2. He really wants to push that forward. To get phase 1 out of the way, which means Hamas have got to be they've got to get rid of their weapons, demilitarize, I was looking for that word, and they've got to not only lay down their weapons, they've got to give back the captives. These are two big issues where they are hardening and hardening and hardening their hearts. And Trump has made it clear, and his patience is not going to last forever. As I said, he wants to implement that second phase, which is to bring in the international forces like Turkey, like Qatar, like Egypt, like Tony Blair. Insanity for this part of the world from Israel's point of view, but this is what we signed. This is what we were willing to do to get our living and dead captives back. So we're going to have to live with those consequences, whether we were pressured by Trump or not. We agreed, and now we've got to walk that out. But just to remind the listeners that we still will remain in 53% of the Gaza Strip. So we will have a massive military buffer zone. And it'll be interesting to see, Brandon, what we do in that 53%, whether it will just be a military buffer zone or whether we will actually settle communities like some of our religious politicians want to do. After all, the Gaza Strip is the promised land. That's part of the borders that were promised to us. And people like Smotrich and Ben Gvir and Moshe Feiglin, they want us to settle there. So get your seatbelts on and get ready for
phase 2, as we talked about on radio and TV today at 1 o'clock Central. You're going to bring in Egypt. And, well, according to one report we showed last week, they're going to be bringing in 15 Palestinian technocrats. 15 Palestinian technocrats approved to manage post-war Gaza. Really? Approved by Egypt, right?
Yeah.
So what could possibly go wrong? The home of Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas. And then you got all the digital stuff they want to do. And you can bring in Turkey and Qatar. And I don't know. It just sounds like a recipe for a mess. But here is what on Sunday, here is what Vice President J.D. Vance said about Hamas. Listen to this, please, Aaron. Oh, here we go. You ready, guys?
The president said today in his interview with Fox News that he has no hard timeline for the disarming of Hamas. If there's no hard timeline, just how can you guarantee that Hamas will disarm at this point?
Well, the president is actually making a very important point here, which is that we don't actually know even what the reality on the ground is there. I mean, when we talk about Hamas, you're talking about 40 different cells. It's disjointed. Some of those cells will probably honor the ceasefire. Many of those cells, as we saw some evidence of today, will not. Before we actually can ensure that Hamas is properly disarmed, that's going to require, as we know, some of these Gulf Arab states to get forces in there to actually apply some law and order and some security keeping on the ground. So I think it would be kind of absurd for the president to say, well, Hamas is going to be disarmed 3 or 4 days from now. We don't even have the security infrastructure in place. We need the Gulf Arab states, our allies, don't have the security infrastructure in place yet to confirm that Hamas is disarmed. Until you actually go a little bit down the path of this peace mission, of this 20-point peace plan, we're not going to be able to say with confidence that everybody is doing everything that we want them to do.
Mr. Vice President, how changing the gears to Ukraine and Russia?
All right. And of course, you got all these different groups under all kinds of different names that in reality are all working for the same thing, whether we call them the Taliban, ISIS, Hamas, and they have a lot of other names I can't pronounce. You know, they're all, of course, you got Iran in there originally, Hezbollah, Iran helping support with October 7th murder of 2023. You got a lot of groups. And I don't think the American people understand this isn't just about Hamas. You agree?
I totally agree. One of the key points in Trump's 20-point plan, re-education and de-radicalizing the area. People like Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar, once they're inside of Gaza Strip and they're administering, and the 15, businessmen who are going to be ruling in the 15 Palestinians. I mean, if they're radicals, Brannon, then good night. It's all over. Because part of Trump's plan is that there would be a re-education.
Yeah.
And like you said before, we all know what their plan is. Well, if you take away radicalization, Islamic radicalization, then maybe there's hope. Maybe there is hope. Like to be fair, these Muslim nations over the last few years that have signed the Abraham Peace Accords, I think they're very genuine. They want to look for a political and an economic peaceful future. But I'm not so sure that Qatar and Egypt and Turkey want the same. I'm not sure if Saudi Arabia want the same. So how is he going to implement, Brannon? How is Trump going to implement a re-education when people like Turkey and 15 Palestinians are in there?
I don't think you can. And our friend Hadia worked for the government, gave her a speech. It's now in the vault. It was at our national conference. It's in the vault for vault members only, worldviewtube.com/vault. She spoke twice, and she was given piles of money to go, I think she said 37 countries in the Middle East to establish moderate networks. She could not establish even one moderate network because of all the Islamic money and the radicals, so-called, were just too strong. And at the end of the day, I think she came to the realization there's only one Islam. There's not a radical Islam. There's not a moderate Islam. There's one Islam, right? Now, Look at this. Hamas official Fadi Hamad, he's saying that ISIS and Hamas is ISIS and is planning to establish a caliphate, Islamic caliphate. We sacrifice our elders and our children as human shields. Read the subtitles, folks.
هذا الشعب المجرب الذي كان جنديا على مدار التاريخ والذي يستعد إن شاء الله تعالى لتحرير القدس وتحرير الأقصى والذي يستعد إن شاء الله تعالى نقولها بملء الفم يستعد لاحتضان الخلافة بعاصمتها القدس إن شاء الله تعالى.
Wait. Where's the headquarters of the caliphate going to be? Jerusalem.
لن تكون القدس عاصمة لفلسطين فقط كدولة مستقلة وإنما ستكون عاصمة للخلافة الإسلامية. لذلك مطلوب سريعا أولا أن يتوحد الشعب الفلسطيني تحت راية لا إله إلا الله. ماذا تنتظرون؟ هل تنتظرون أن تباد غزة؟ أن تباد غزة عن بكرة أبيها؟ بعض الناس بيقول لك لابد أن نشكر شعوبنا العربية والإسلامية. أنا ما بديش أشكر. أنا لا أريد أن أشكر الشعوب العربية والإسلامية. أنا لكم أن تنتفضوا أن تتقدموا في سبيل الله سبحانه. لا شكر لكم، لا عذر لكم، لا عذر لكم، لا رخص لكم. يجب أن تنتفضوا كما انتفض الشعب الفلسطيني بنسائه بأطفاله بشيوخه بكل ما قدموا في قدمنا في سبيل الله. ولدينا نقدم. العدو الصهيوني يفاوضنا تحت النار وأنتم لا زلتم تعيشون في العار. العدو الصهيوني يفاوضنا تحت النار بأشلائنا بدمنا وأنتم لا زلتم تعيشون.
Wow. So he says that Hamas is ISIS and they're planning to take Jerusalem as the head of their caliphate. So there you go. If we want to know, this is what one of the officials with Hamas says, Aaron.
So he's not going to be one of the 15, right?
I hope not. I hope not. But if he is, good luck, because this is the kind of people you're working with. But I'm sure,
Trump, man.
I'm sure if he got in the room with your folks, he would say, "Oh, bless you, you're wonderful, we like you, you're so kind." Oh yeah, right?
And would probably drink it in as well.
Well, we've got a real problem here, that's for sure. Now, let's go to, before we talk about America real quick, let's go to the laser dome. This is pretty fascinating what you guys are on the verge of deploying. Watch this, folks.
Iron Beam, high-power laser weapon system.
Laser system ready. 3, 2, 1. Target launched. Target engaged. Laser interception in progress. Successfully intercepted.
Target successfully intercepted.
Target launched.
Target launched. Target engaged. Laser interception in progress. Successfully intercepted.
Target successfully intercepted.
Iron Beam, high-power laser weapon system.
Oh man, that's pretty cool, Aaron.
Amazing, isn't it? It
Yeah.
really is. When you read something that Israel high tech or professors or scholars, when they write articles about what they're planning, you can just about guarantee that it's going to come off. I remember reading about things like this 25 years ago, and here we are, literally just last week. The man with the brainchild of it came out and said it is now ready. So you've got this high intensity of light, and it can take out small drones. It can take out ballistic missiles. They can range from 400 meters away to up to, I believe it's about up to 5 or 6 miles away. That's pretty impressive. So, look, we've already got a very highly successful percentage with the Iron Dome and the David Sling. This is taking it up another level. Now, that doesn't mean that we should rest on our laurels and keep our eyes off the ball, so to speak. But this is another great way of being able to put the nation at ease. And we know we've got some dark days ahead. We know all the nations are going to turn against us. Nations from the north. We know, with these nations like Turkey wanting to come in on our borders. It's hard to believe, Brannon, how Turkey have somehow weaseled their way in. And I don't want to spread any hatred against your president, because he's done so many incredible things for us. But it almost seems that he's the man that's
he's the
opening the door.
Well, he's the one that called Erdogan in the Oval Office the other day a good man, a strong man, to the shock of many, right?
Yeah.
Now, speaking of America, Thank you for that segue. You didn't know what was coming next. We're funding the Taliban. I mean, can you believe it? Here on one side, we're trying to help you guys. On one side, we're trying to get rid of the narco-terrorists and all the illegal immigrants that are here that maybe, and other people that might be part of carousels. While we actually, we're a schizophrenic country. Listen to this. Here we go. And you're going to notice our friend, Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. Here we go.
H.R. 260, a bill to require a strategy to oppose financial or material support by foreign countries and non-governmental organizations
to the Taliban and for the purposes.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Tennessee.
Mr. Speaker, we must send a very strong message that the United States will no longer tolerate sending U.S. tax dollars to terrorist organizations in Afghanistan and across the Middle East.
Those in favor say aye.
I'd like to thank my dear friend Sean Ryan from Middle Tennessee, former Navy SEAL. He brought this to my attention. And my good friend Legend, he's an Afghan that fought for America, and he's my friend.
In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed.
We got Scott Mann, Sarah Adams, and Legend. We'll be talking about where some of this stuff is in Afghanistan and the federal government when it comes to funding the Taliban.
And it's like I said, it's your tax dollars. It's your tax dollars going to the very individuals who killed hundreds and thousands of American soldiers, injured so many Americans, killed hundreds of thousands of Afghans, and right now they're hosting Al-Qaeda and ISIS and everyone else who are planning to attack you again. And you're funding it.
In the hands of the Taliban, and then it's later being auctioned off. This got taken to Sean Ryan and Legend, and we figured out that we've got a lot bigger problems on our hands. Sean and Legend brought to our attention at least $40 million per week, $40 million per week in taxpayer money is ending up in the hands of the Taliban, and then it's later being auctioned off. Cash is flown by charter jets into Afghanistan. It's auctioned off to the Taliban in order to exchange it for the Afghan currency.
Afghanistan. The Taliban is the current reigning government and has current control over Afghanistan. To find out that $40 million in cash payments per week are being delivered to the Taliban is an outrage that the American people will not tolerate, they will not stand for.
Recently, we learned what many of us had already known, and that is that billions of American taxpayer dollars were being funneled to spread anti-American sentiment across the world and fund terrorism. Given our roughly $37 trillion of debt and $2 trillion annual deficit, the arrogance and greed and foolishness coming out of this town is absolutely astounding. On top of the billions of tax dollars shelled out to USAID, Representative Burchett, Sean Ryan, and others, including our friend Legend over here today, highlighted that the Biden State Department sent millions of your tax dollars to the Taliban. As someone who has served our nation overseas and fought to defend liberties and freedoms that we cherish, it's disgraceful that the Biden administration sent our resources to our enemies on the battlefield. People often say that the United States funds both sides of every conflict. Under the Biden administration, those assertions are absolutely true.
We really started a conversation here with the three of you guys about that. Tim Burchett got involved, Eli Crane got involved. I talked to Tim Sheehy, the senator out of Montana. He's aware of it. He was introducing it into the Senate. I mean, what's the headway on this?
This has to be an act of Congress. This has to be no tax dollars for terrorists act. It's a very good bill, and it's just waiting for Senator John Thune to put it up for a vote.
The president has issued an order which we have followed to suspend any aid that could possibly reach the hands of the Taliban.
Essentially funneling cash straight into the Taliban's pockets. $40 billion in cash?
We're still actually giving $40 million a week to the Taliban.
$3 billion plus going over to the Taliban.
Our government is sending taxpayer dollars to terrorists that we fought for 20 years.
Your hard-earned tax dollars ended up in the hands of terrorists.
And what do they do with that $40 million you have? Well, let me tell you. This is what legend says.
Shouldn't the American people approve or not approve this? Sending $40 million. Taliban is taxpayer funded.
We're giving tens of millions of dollars a week to the Taliban.
Sending money to terrorist groups.
Wow. And of course, what we're waiting on is I guess it's in the House. Here you go. Even with the change administration, our government refuses to cut off U.S. taxpayer dollars flowing to the Taliban. Why are we funding the same terrorists who killed and maimed thousands of our troops? Call your senator, 202-224-3121. $40 million a week. And not only is it stupid to be funding the people who want to kill you, and you know that money sloshes around beyond the Taliban too to other groups too, but Americans are having a hard time paying for their health care, their car insurance, their health insurance, their homeowners insurance. It's all skyrocketing, their groceries. And we're giving $40 million a week. Aaron, it looks like Israel, in so many ways, Israel and America, sometimes we are our two countries, we're our own worst enemies, right?
Yeah, but there's something it doesn't sit right with me. I mean, I understand during the Biden administration, okay? I'm sad to say that, but I understand. But where it says even under the new administration, they refuse to stop funding. If they didn't know about it, that would be one thing. But to actually say they refuse. Now, if that's true, what's going on? There's something that we don't know about.
Well, they said in the piece, President Trump wants this to stop. So I don't know what's going on. You know, they need legislations. I don't know why they need legislation to stop it. We're going to look into this more. But obviously, they have to have some legislation to stop whatever has been authorized. You would think this could be stopped with an executive order even.
Yeah, and you would think, knowing who Trump is and knowing that he's already defunded so many evil organizations, that he would immediately do something. $40 million a week is a lot of money. And like you said, it could go to people's health.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why, an executive order or something is not being implemented, but it needs to stop and stop immediately.
I'm trying to find an answer real quick. They are cash payments. Okay, I get that. Why is it not stopped? President Trump has long criticized aid to Afghanistan, calling 2020 withdrawal a disaster. Okay. Tim Burchett have urged him to end these flows, with Burchett stating on X, we have to quit funding the Taliban under at real Donald Trump. $40 million a week to our enemies as a slap in the face to those who served. The House passed the No Tax Dollar for Terrorists Act, H.R. 6586, unanimously in 2023 and reintroduced it in 2025 to block such funds, but it stalled in the Democrat-controlled Senate under Biden. As of October 2025, Republican-led efforts, now with the GOP Senate majority post-2024 elections, continue pushing reforms, but the weekly shipments persist at reduced levels due to Trump's cuts. Why hasn't Trump stopped it? While Trump can direct executive actions like aid freezes, several structural and practical barriers limit his ability to halt the flow immediately or entirely. In summary, Trump can and has reduced the flow via executive action, but completely stopping it requires congressional action, international coordination, and alternative aid mechanisms to avoid worsening Afghanistan's crisis. Ongoing GOP investigations aim to accelerate this, potentially ending this issue by late 2025.
There you go.
What a mess. What a mess. And there's a lot more than this. I mean, $40 million a week. And that's just us. What other governments around the world are funding these characters, right? And it makes you wonder if the goal isn't, again, we're funding both sides so the military-industrial complex can keep fighting wars. We create the groups, we create ISIS, we fight ISIS, and we fund the military-industrial complex to fight ISIS, and we let them come to America, and we turn a blind eye to their terrorist attacks. Then we use the terrorist attacks to give you the Patriot Act to spy on you, and then we let more in, and we let terrorist attacks happen, and then we can get everybody a digital ID to track everybody to make you feel safer because the terrorists are here that we allowed to be here. So you see what I'm saying? They create and manufacture the crisis so they can offer up the solution. Not to mention, at the same time, using the terrorism to enrich themselves with the military industrial complex and their friends, which then kick it back to them, to their family, their friends. They get out of Congress, they get on boards, they get on the boards of these groups, they fund their campaigns while they're in office. I mean, the whole thing sounds like a gigantic, not only money laundering scam at so many levels, but totally enrichment, as well as using the crisis to implement tyranny.
Yeah. And look, for all we know, like you said, there's maybe other things that we don't know about. For all we know, America may be funding the Taliban because maybe there's an even more evil force out there. We don't know. We don't know. I mean,
you know why we don't know? Because our government lies to us. You know, we still don't know who killed JFK. We still don't know who tried killing President Trump, right? I mean, we don't know much about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Our own government never levels with us, right?
Yeah.
And your own government, by the way, doesn't level with you guys, because I just read an article. Let's see here, ISRAEL. I just read an article about you guys over the weekend. I thought I saved it. Where on October 7th, you had so many problems, and the Hamas was practicing, and I think even a week before carried out an exercise to penetrate the fence, and that the fence was known not to really stop a bulldozer or anything else. I mean, you guys, your people were warning over and over that was going to happen. And it was like nobody was listening, that these are not precautions. These aren't strong enough. And they're practicing up into the week before October 7th. That was in your own Jerusalem Post. Have you read that?
I have, Brandon. I have.
What you have read it? What do you make of it?
Yeah. No. I look, 6 months before October the 7th, Dr. Mordecai Kedar came out with a strong warning. And he said something big is going down. And my prayer for Israel meeting that I lead, we heard about it. We prayed about it. Who are we? We're just a group of small timers. No doubt our top military, they also heard about it, but obviously they didn't do it. And there were reasons why they didn't do it. And one of the reasons, they were afraid. They didn't want to rock the boat. They didn't want to get, and by the way, I don't know how true this is, Brannon, but the late Henry Kissinger apparently, in and around this time that we got warning signs, that we're talking about 6 months before October the 7th, I heard a report that he told Bibi Netanyahu, whatever happens, make sure you do not shoot the first bullet. And what was he saying? He was saying, if you do, you're going to come across as the instigators. And as it happens, we know that because the evil was so bad on October the 7th, that gave us a legitimacy, even though the world didn't really give it to us, but it gave us a legitimacy to do what we did. And I think for the most part, people identified and understood that we had to do it. But it's just an interesting quote. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But it makes sense. But there were warnings and there was negligence. And for that reason, Brannon, our defense minister, Yoav Gallant, who was the defense minister at the beginning of the war, and our top five-star general, Hezi Halevi, they stepped down. And there's supposed to be a number more. That's another Pandora box that we haven't really even touched on yet. And whether or not Bibi's going to get pressured to step down, although I think with this peace deal and ceasefire, I think Donald Trump has definitely given him another lifeline, for sure.
Okay, before we let you go, London, you got a Jewish guy being arrested for simply wearing a Star of David. You know, we're kind of to the point, and I have listeners in Great Britain, so God bless them, you know, but we're kind of to the point where you don't really, I look at what's happening in London, and aside from the decent people that are there, I look at what's happening in London and you think, if Russia took over London, would it really matter? I mean, London's already fallen. London has already fallen to the Islamists. Would it really matter if Putin moved in there and took over? Because the Islamists already have. I mean, it couldn't be much worse. You want to comment before I play this video?
Yeah, Brannon, have you heard of Tommy Robinson?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's in your country. He's in your country right now. I just watched a video with him.
We love him. We love him. And he loves us. And he is doing recording everywhere he's going, and he's putting those recordings out on social media. He's doing a lot of good, and I hope and we pray that what he puts out there is going to influence people, because we know BBC and all these pro-Muslim Islamic sympathizers are putting out the wrong kind of PR.
Yep.
So, yeah. No,
I mean, it's
I
hard to believe. They brought him into the police station for wearing a Star of David. Watch this, folks.
Necklace on it, right? Yeah. Star of David.
Because the officer details this in their statement.
What, like what a Star of David?
Yeah.
So?
They felt that the actions that I've just mentioned about going up close proximity to the pro-Palestinian protesters.
Can I speak to my lawyer for a second?
Of course you can.
Able to...
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned about this question about the Star of David.
Why are you concerned?
Well, I think I'll have a private consultation and we'll set out my concerns.
Okay. The time is 02:09 and I'm pausing the interview. My line of questioning, first and foremost, is not to offend, it's not to discriminate. I want to have that on record. I'm not asking that question to cause you any offence. However, if we'd have proceeded with my line of questioning, the officers have noted in their statements that they believed that because the Star of David was out and present to people, which may take either offence to the presence of it, they felt that that was antagonising the situation further.
Okay, well, I'm going to say I think that's, with respect, appalling and shows a complete lack of ignorance on behalf of those officers.
Okay.
Because if they were familiar with the fact that IJAM were organising the protests, then they would recognise that how could a Mogen David cause offence, notwithstanding the fact that, you know, we shouldn't be in a situation where people can't walk around wearing a sign of their religion. It's not like. So I do have a great deal of concerns with the officer's response and the line of questioning, but I've recorded it on tape.
So, to that point, I myself, and I believe for the Metropolitan Police Service as well, I don't believe that anyone has acted with a view to cause anyone an offence. However, we're not talking about wearing a Star of David. I don't know what you're referring to, a Mogen David?
Yeah, sorry, a Star of David.
Star of David, I haven't heard that.
Apologies.
We're not talking about walking around with a Star of David chain on his neck in a open forum in public generally. We're talking about a very niche environment where tensions are high, where two sides are coming together, have adverse opinions, adverse views. That, I think we can't open it up to say anyone can't walk around wearing what they want to wear. We're not talking about human rights in terms of where his. Can
you believe this? This is the stupidity Great Britain has sunk to, that we cannot allow, I don't want to offend you. Well, you are, you idiot. You're sitting there doing the very thing you're accusing the man of doing that was wearing the Star of David. The difference is he has a right to practice his freedom of religion, but you don't have the right as police to stop him unless you are now a totalitarian dystopian society, which Great Britain is. Okay? So he keeps apologizing. I don't mean to offend. Well, you are. And you're, like I said, here you're saying he was being offensive for wearing the Star of David. You're being offensive because you don't want him to wear the Star of David. But this is why we're supposed to have free speech, right? And how about it's offensive that you're allowing these folks out in the street to celebrate the murder of Jews? Now, again, people have the right in America to do this, even if we don't like it, under free speech. But you know what they're doing over there? They're picking and choosing the winners. They're picking and choosing who has free speech, who has access. They are clearly on a path for the Islamists because the Islamists have taken over. They have lots of money there, and they are following the money. And again, would you see, other than the innocent people living in Great Britain, would it really be a big problem if Putin finally got sick of NATO and took down Great Britain? I don't know they would be a great loss other than the innocent life, because they've already been taken down by Islam. You know, the movie London Has Fallen? Yeah, it's fallen. You can't wear a Star of David. Aaron, comment in closing, please.
Brannon, they're afraid. The police, the soldiers, the people are afraid. The Islamists, now that they've grown to a certain number, they're bullies, they intimidate. So the police, rather than arrest them and cause disturbances, they will arrest a man that has a Star of David who is causing a disturbance. And this is what Isaiah the prophet said. Woe to those who put evil for good and good for evil, who put light for darkness and darkness for light and bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. That's exactly what we're doing. We're seeing right in this. That was hard to watch, Brannon. That was hard, very hard for me to watch. The false balances, the false narrative here. And that policeman, he admitted, he said this statement. He said, you are, by wearing that Star of David, you are adding to the tensions. So he's acknowledging that there's already tensions. So if he's acknowledging, why isn't he arresting all those people? Instead, he waits for this little Jew boy with a Star of David and he picks on him. Disgusting.
Yep. And this is what's going down in Great Britain. This is what's going down in France. This is what's going down in France with the Islamists taking over. This woman, this Islamist pervert, accosted her and ripped her pants down, was trying to rape her. She's a tourist from Brazil in France.
Je vous ai demandé de rester là-bas, vous ne voulez pas rester là-bas. Donc vous restez là-bas. Restez là-bas.
And every time you turn around, these devils are raping women. And he walked towards me without speaking. I was panicking. I stood up. Then he pushed me, still without a word. He tried to escape, but I tried to escape, but he pulled down my pants. It's clear he was trying to rape me, end quote. That's what she told the French media. And, the stats are here. Foreigners committed 77% of the solved rape cases in Paris in 2023. That's the ones that were solved. I'm sorry. This is a demonic, degenerate people. They're inbred. Okay. Over in Great Britain, they're allowing first cousins to marry each other. Okay. God be praised for the few that are coming to Christ. But by and large, this is a demonic, inbred group of people. There's a reason nobody really wants most of them. Closing comment, Aaron.
Well, this week's portion that we read throughout the synagogues is about the story of Noah and the evil that was happening on the earth before, and the reason why the Lord decided enough is enough. And, and the Lord said in the last days, it's going to be like the days of Noah.
Yep.
And we're seeing it, sad, heartbreaking, but there is hope, because the Lord found Noah, a righteous man who prepared an ark. And that's what we have to do. The ark's been prepared. That's the message of salvation. And we need to get that message out.
Amen. Thank you, Aaron. Aharon Levarko, our reporter on the ground in Israel, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you for your support at worldviewfoundation.com. Please remember us in your end-of-the-year giving, worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music, guys. Let's call it a night. worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Last night was lesson number 50, lastdaysstudy.com. Let's see if it's there yet. lastdaysstudy.com. It's certainly on the website, worldviewtube.com. But if you go to lastdaysstudy.com, let's see if it's there. There it is. Look at that. Logan is on the ball today. All 50 lessons there as I teach through the book of Revelation, all free of charge as a ministry of our foundation, lastdaysstudy.com. Brought to you by our foundation. So thank you for your support of our foundation that helps us push out free programming and news and information and ministry programming. Till next time, I'm Brannon Howse. May God save America. Take care.
Spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
Welcome, glad you're with us. We're going to be joined by Aharon Levarko out of Israel here in just a moment. Before we do, I got to tell you, Aaron's going to love this. Aaron's going to love this. Last night, lesson 50, lesson 50, as I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 21, about halfway through that chapter. I had to take off last week because I was in Northern Illinois. A week before that was our national conference, so I'm back at it. And I must tell you, it was glorious to sit at the desk and study all day Saturday and Sunday. I love my routine. I'm very much a creature of habit. I like routine. My wife at times tries to get me out of that routine and traveling and doing new things. But I like my routine. And so I got back to studying Saturday and Sunday while she was organizing and cleaning and cooking. We both stay very busy with little side projects all the time, right? You guys do that? I think one of the things we're looking forward to is the temperature dropping around here, so we're not always sweating. Because it's just, I don't know, by the time of the year, I'm just tired of all the heat. I could not live in Florida year-round. I have to have some cooler temperatures, and I'm looking forward to having the first fire of the season in the real wood fireplace. That might happen tonight. We'll see. Because the temperatures really changed here in the Mid-South. Cold front came in, some storms and cold front. But pretty soon I'll be sitting at the desk studying Saturday and Sunday with a roaring fire and that popping wood again. I love that. But I had to sit there on Saturday and Sunday with no fire. It was too hot. But I did a lot of studying on Saturday and Sunday. Last night was lesson 50. And if you missed it, it's at worldviewtube.com now. I think we've got all of them collected at lastdaysstudy.com, lastdaysstudy.com. And last night in Revelation chapter 21, here is what we read. You ready for this, guys? It's talking about John, the Revelator, is talking about how a angel, one of the seven angels, it says, who had the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues, came to me and talked with me. That's very similar to what we see in Revelation 17, verse 1, isn't it? The angel that had the seven bowls showed me the woman or the harlot that sits on many waters, the false dominant church that leads, of course, into the scene change and Babylon. We pretty much have almost the exact same wording as Revelation 17, verse 1, but now it's one of the seven angels showing John Jerusalem, the new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven, and it's called the New Jerusalem. It's called the Holy Jerusalem. It's called the Great City. It's called the Bride. Got many names. And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, the Holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her light was like a most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. Also, she had a great and high wall. Listen to this. This is what I want to get to. Also, she had a great and high wall with 12 gates and 12 angels at the gates and names written on them, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. What? I didn't think God had a plan for the nation of Israel anymore, or for any of the Jews. That's what we're told by most so-called pastors today, their favorites. Their favorites of the Gospel Coalition and others, Doug Wilson, John Piper, Vodi Bakum. God's done with Israel, man. The church. That's Israel, don't you know? Wrong-o. Because as we continue reading, not only do we have 12 gate towers, that would be the more accurate description in the original language, 12 gate towers with the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Wait a minute, I thought there weren't any real Jews left anymore. I thought they pretty much have all been lost. What you got in Israel, they will tell us they're not real Jews. Oh, okay. I guess you guys have never heard of DNA tests. But they're like, well, okay, so there are some Jews, but where are these 12 tribes, Brannon? Oh, you could actually buy some books. There are some folks that have written and done great research on where some of these 12 tribes might be living, including some in China. But guess what? I don't have to know where the 12 tribes are. You don't have to know where the 12 tribes are, because God knows where the 12 tribes are. And I trust God. And at the appointed day and time, these 12 tribes are going to come out. And we know this from, what was it? We were over in Revelation. I think it was Revelation chapter 7. Yeah, it was. And I heard the number of those who were sealed. 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel were sealed. Well, they come forth. God providentially brings them forth, and they're sealed, and they become great evangelists. But it gets better.